It's a big day when it's episode 3, and we're Jerry free here at the IMCA TV DirtCast.
Plus,
like a dream come true.
It is, and I love that intro.
It's so nice.
Darth Vader.
That was one of the few sound effects that I recognized from your little gizmo over there.
From my new toy.
Never seen Star Wars.
You've never seen that either, Jim?
You don't know what you're missing, Jim.
Yeah.
I've never seen
it. Other things more important when that came out.
But I have never seen
Late
an
70s.
episode of The Office either, I don't believe. And I think...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
a
don't
good
think
show.
I've ever watched it.
That's a good show.
It's
What about
interesting.
Slapshot? You seen Slapshot?
Yeah, I've seen that, but it's been a while. I can't really quote any Slapshot quotes, but...
I'm not good at identifying movies
Hanrahan,
by
she's
their
a
lines.
lesbian. I know. She told me.
Jim could start firing off all kinds of fun stuff. What are we going to talk about today?
Without Jerry, we have a chance to get some talking in.
Podcast episode 3, you said?
Yeah, season 2, episode 3.
It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since we've been together, at least in the same room or as a group.
I think last time Garrett sat in for me, and this time Carson's here for Jerry. This is like a lot of musical chairs.
He did. I had our last episode was on March 15th.
February
and you
15th.
were not. I'm sorry, February 15th, and you were not here.
I was not.
I was in sunny Florida.
But Garrett was. Yeah, so now Jerry's not here. We've replaced him with Carson, which is...
I think I got a picture of Carson down in Florida on my phone.
You do. I bet you do.
You want me to show it on the...
No, we're not going to show that picture. We're just going to do this. There.
Rim shot.
Yeah, a little rim shot.
That
Oh,
is
Good times.
That is picture of 2023.
2020. No,
Is that the picture that you showed me a little bit ago?
Yes,
2021.
You really let yourself go, Carson.
I did. Yes.
You did.
That's not all that we got to let go.
Winter will do that to you. It'll put on a few extra pounds, sitting inside, cooped up. Everybody gets cabin fever, right?
Very much so.
I think so.
And we're supposed to get snow here.
Yeah, I think it's Carson's fault, too.
You brought it
come
from
on.
Minnesota.
I mean, yeah.
He probably got like 10 feet of snow on the ground up there.
We don't have any, but we're going to have about
We have 0.
4 to 8 inches, I think.
Yeah, 4 to 8 or 6 to 9 or somewhere.
like
I've
that.
heard varying things. So it's all your damn fault, Carson. So we're going to, after this podcast, you're going to be required to get the hell out of here
Good.
and take it with you.
It was... what do they say? If you don't like Iowa weather, wait 15 minutes and it'll change? No,
They say-
wait, that's
Not
XR
even that
schedule.
Oh. Oh, gosh.
30 minutes for Iowa weather.
I need my rim shot to be a little louder. Turn the volume up, Nate. Oh, gee.
Oh, okay, we got all that shit out of the way. Get down to business.
Yeah, let's talk about something important. What are we going to talk about? I mean, again, segment 1, what are we? A couple of minutes into this? Kind of like a hot lap session. What do you want to talk about?
We had a lot of races.
We have.
I think was it the Icebreaker in Abilene before or after the last podcast?
It was after we did it on the 15th. I think I left.
Oh, that's
for there
right.
on
Then the
like
16th or 17th,
or the
yeah.
18th, I think.
Yeah, the podcast was before we had Rob and Libby on
Oh, that's right.
our last podcast.
Correct. Yeah, and we did talk about the icebreaker, and I went down to it. It was chilly, as
The ice was not broken.
the ice was broken. Yes, there was no ice, so to speak, but it was close. It was typical Abilene weather at times. I think unpredictable. It felt a little bit like Iowa. I think at the time, and I don't want to talk too much about weather, but I think at the time, the temperature here in Vinton, Iowa, was like 4 or 5 degrees higher or warmer than it was in Abilene at the same period of time. So it was pretty chilly. But like I said during that last podcast, that the racing in Abilene, I think, has just got better and better and better over the years, and we had some fantastic racing. Decent attendance, pretty good attendance from a car count standpoint, I thought. And, the racing was good. You had some different winners. Everything, I think, about the icebreaker was pretty decent. It was pretty decent. And I enjoy going down there. Got to see John Webb win a feature. I don't know if...
Haven't seen that. Whose car was he driving? Was that his car?
He has like
That's
50.
his own.
Was it?
He has like 50
He has so
of them,
many.
doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. It's one from his stable.
Exactly. It was a John Webb stable car.
Yeah.
And he won.
There's only one person with more cars than John Webb.
It was, who's that?
Jerry Schramm.
Oh, yeah, ain't no joke.
That way he doesn't have to wash his cars after he races.
He's got one for every division. John's got like 10 modifieds, I think, and Jerry's got like one stock car, one modified.
He dabbles in a lot of different
late
things.
model.
Well,
like
one for Friday, one for Saturday, one for midweek shows. He told me he just doesn't like to wash them.
It's like a George.
So he just gets them and throws them away.
But anyhow, yeah, the back to Abilene and that John Webb feature. It was that was interesting. I did watch it, although albeit I think it was from my car on my phone. I was over in Tech for most of the time. It got pretty cold on the first night when John won. I think it was a little colder the first night than the second, but the wind was blowing in different directions each night and everything else. But the interesting thing is John Webb on that race was in third place. If we had like a moment of the week, Carson, we've talked about this, right? We had like a moment of the week, maybe that would be one where first and second kind of crashed each other in that Abilene mod feature, and John Webb, who was in third, kind of squeaked by it and ended up winning the race. I thought good example of, rather be really lucky than really good.
Right place, right time.
Right place, right time, or all kinds of different things you could say. I don't have any of those on my soundboard, but congratulations to John on his win. Again, he's a big supporter of IMCA from a racing standpoint, and even from, obviously from a racetrack and a promoter standpoint. So, but there's a lot of stuff going on now outside Abilene as well. We've had a bunch of races, and we've printed out some. Ryan had grabbed some stats for us and just some different things to talk about, and it's slowly picking up the last couple of weeks, I would say.
And we've had 100 races already this year, over 100 race nights. Division-wise, when you combine them all together, 100 features.
Sure.
So we've been racing all over, out west, down south, in the east, and Florida as well. So
yep.
Things are starting to open up all over the country.
Yeah, from like coast to coast. We're clear out at Mojave Valley over there in, what is it, Bullhead City? Is that where
Arizona.
Technically.
Yep. Technically.
And you got guys from California trickling down there. I see like Bobby Hogue winning a feature over there. The Morris kid, Troy Morris III, winning a mod feature over there at Mojave. And Jim and I have talked a little bit. I've been to Mojave maybe twice ever. And Mojave's it's just a really good little IMCA racetrack, and it's something that we can touch on too, the racetrack sizes and stuff. Did you bring those stats?
Yep, I got those.
Which I thought was interesting. But Mojave's one of our smaller tracks, I would say. It's not the smallest, but it's a little track, kind of like the one here in town.
Quarter mile.
Yeah, quarter mile. I think most of our tracks are 3/8 mile or less. Yeah. You've got all that really interesting stuff. But yeah, we're racing from coast to coast, really, from California, I think, has got, if not, they're getting close to starting, but we've got.
Yeah, Bakersfield's is scheduled to open this Saturday night. And if you look at their Facebook page, there's a couple pictures of them trying to pump water off the track. And I believe they mentioned there's another storm possibly coming in. Let's hope Scott can dodge the rain and get the opener in.
I watched the news this morning, and it said something like Lake Tahoe had 48 feet of snow this year, and they were supposed to get another couple of feet.
That's crazy.
4 feet or something like that in the next 48 hours or over through the course of this week. And I'm like 48 feet of snow? That's like living in St. Cloud, isn't it?
Easy. No, it's not quite that
Sounds
bad.
like Carson bitching every day.
48 feet, not 48 inches?
48 feet of snow.
That's deep.
They were having to shovel the snow off the roofs of the houses because they were collapsing.
I did see some of that.
I mean, thank God we don't have that problem here. Tahoe is a pretty place. We go out there for the workshops every year. We go out to Reno, and I've been up to Tahoe skiing, I think, once or twice in my 25 years of going to Reno. It's super, super pretty area, but I don't care how pretty it is. When it's 48 feet of snow, I'm out.
How do you function?
Yeah.
Well, it's not all at once, but
right.
It would be never ending.
Yeah, that's just a lot.
I mean, there's videos of people walking through the snow, and you can't even see them.
Well, you have 2.5 feet of snow up where you're at, right?
Yeah, just in my front yard.
Just in your front yard.
Yeah.
Better you than me. But yeah, I mean, so
your snowblower's got heated handles on it.
Yes, it does.
So yes, So from Reno, we can go over to let's just go over to the Emerald Coast, to the Clash on the Coast. In the last week of racing we've had over there, and we had Peyton Taylor on our show a couple episodes ago, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't pleasantly surprised with the turnout. We had lots of conversations. Peyton's the first time promoter from that event standpoint and from that event period, and we had expectations, and I think we surpassed them. I know
Absolutely.
And Jim was down there for a few days of it, and it's just nothing but really good things have come out of the Clash at the Coast. The comments before, during, after, it's just it's refreshing to see that. I think a lot of times, especially on social media side of things, people get caught up in just focusing on the negativity all the time. And
a lot of the locals down there, I noticed, were commenting on the level of competition down there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hadn't heard of Austin Becerra before last week, then you certainly know who he is now.
Correct.
But yeah, they
Yes, you do.
talked it up how competitive those events were.
You go back to some of the barnstorming days well before our time, your and my time here, Ryan and Carson's, and even a little bit before Jim's time. Some of the barnstorming days where you take IMCA modified racing into areas where it's either non-existent or where it's not necessarily the most popular division in the area, and you showcase it. And the Clash and what Peyton did down there is a good example of that. It showcased IMCA mod racing in a way that I don't think a lot of people maybe quite expected.
Right.
And video helps. Video helps us a ton, and streaming that on IMCA TV, showing those features and what obviously what Austin was able to do on the last race. It's hard to describe that and put that into words, and it's much easier for people to just watch it, and say, oh,
Right.
those things do happen, and they're pretty damn cool, and
when was it? Tuesday night's feature at Northwest Florida, green, white, checkered. I mean, just a fantastic race, and Becerra was coming at the end. And, once again, I think I was there for the two races at Baker, Northwest Florida, and I can't, I saw firsthand the work that, Scott and his crew did to provide a racetrack that could, that could give that kind of racing. It was incredible. It really was.
Yeah, and it just they had a little gap in the racing between the two tracks that hosted the Clash events, and it sounded like they had a good time that day even.
Make a vacation out of it, along with going racing for 4 nights.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just a lot of positives out of everything that Peyton put together down there, and it's pretty cool for IMCA to be a part of it, and I think that's going to set the stage for what's to come into the beginning of next year in 2024. So
We'll be back.
The foundation set.
Yeah,
How bigger and better, I guarantee it.
What was there, 50, 52, 53?
57, I think.
57.
57, 58.
57.
57, 58 was the high.
I cut it short. 57 modifieds, in an area where we don't have a ton, how many different states did they come from? It was like,
I don't know how, they...
8 or 12 or something like that.
It was at least 8.
It was a bunch of different states, so to all those racers that made the trip down there, we hope you enjoyed yourselves, obviously, and we can't thank you enough for making the trip, and obviously to Peyton and his wife and the racetracks for hosting the event. We can't thank everybody enough on what I think was a really, really good way to start some of the racing season for IMCA.
Yeah, we've had a great early season. I mean, you take the 93, 94 cars modifieds at Kokopah, then you follow it up with, almost 60 in Florida, and obviously the Icebreaker, and even the series, the Lone Star series going on down in Texas right now. I mean, it's all pretty positive, that's for sure.
The neatest thing to me about that, I mean, we've had how many tracks do you think have raced, Jim, so far this year? 8 or 10, maybe?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that area. We've had over 100 races, and we've had almost 70 different winners through those 100 races. And those guys are racing against each other. I mean, so it's not like, sure, you might see a Becerra win a couple of races, but there's no dominant figure early on in the season. So it's great to see so many different faces in victory lane.
That, and we've had I believe I counted 3 rookie winners this season already.
That's pretty cool.
All of which get a Speedway gift card.
Sweet.
So if we've had 3 in the first 100 races, by the time we reach 6,800 races, how many rookie winners should we have?
I'll let you know when we get to 6,800 races.
68 times 3 would be a couple hundred.
Yeah. It's usually
Yep.
200 or 300, I think.
Usually, yeah.
By the time we get to the end of the year, new people who experience Victory Lane that are in a new division. They aren't necessarily new to Victory Lane, but they're in that division there, which to me is a huge accomplishment. Winning races in any of these classes, in my opinion, is very, very hard to do with as competitive as dirt track racing is across the country. You know, winning races is not easy. It's something to be very proud
I
of.
watched you race for years. I know it's not easy.
Yeah, I was terrible at it. I see a name in here like Joe Dosical. You know, he won 3 in a row down at Central Arizona in January. You know, I raced against Joe Dosical. He was one of the guys. I'll be honest.
That's right. That was back in the early.
I hated him. I like because he was good, and it was just like from a competitor standpoint, you just like who's the guy I have to beat. And when I was racing in their like 2004, 2005, I think is when it was. He was one of those guys, and he's still in the sport mod class. He was one of those guys in sport mod racing, or even at the time non-sanctioned B mod racing around here. That was really, really hard to beat. So every time I beat him, I kind of felt like I accomplished something, you know. And to see him, you know, clear down in Arizona winning races, to me personally, it doesn't really surprise me because he's a pretty damn good racer.
Speaking of Joe, I remember when he first started racing, it was a hobby stock. I think he raced out here. He'd raced 3 or 4 nights in a hobby stock before he moved to sport mod. And he made tech, like his second night in a race car, and he came down to the infield. This little guy back then. He was just a kid, and you knew then that he was going to be good. Yeah, and he certainly has been. Yeah.
He's not a very old guy. I don't know how old he is exactly, but he's been racing for 20 years, you know. So I just remember him primarily because I had to race against him at times. I don't think he liked me any more than I liked him during those moments. That's okay. He may still not like me, but that's all right. There's not a lot of, like you had said, Ryan, there's not a lot of repeat names on some of this. You know, Cam Reimer's won a couple of races, and in the sport mod, I think at different tracks even. 3 different tracks, 2 different tracks. Cam has. He's fast. Cam's one of those guys that has nice race, good equipment. He represents himself very well as a racer, and I think he represents dirt track very, very well. Dirt track racing, and particularly sport mod racing, very well because he's a pretty easy guy to talk to, and he represents himself really well, which is always positive. You know, he's usually not the guy that's going to be acting like a maniac after the races because he didn't like something that happened. Right.
And he takes care of his stuff too. That's big.
He does.
Yeah.
And he had that wild crash.
That's been showing here in the background.
Yeah, he had that wild. He wasn't in that one, was he?
No, that was Super National.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, he had a wild crash that we talked a little bit about at Kokopah. I think it was where it was at.
Yeah. Ended up in a billboard.
Through a billboard. Yep. Oh, well. Well, yeah, and we had some Mod Light racing down on not just Florida racing for the Clash. We have some Mod Light racing going on at the Henry County.
In Texas also.
Sugar Bowl, yep. We had some Mod Light races at East Bay already, that are a part of kind of that Florida Speed Week scene, I think, a little bit, some of those events. And then, they're already racing Mod Lights in Texas.
I think we're in 15 states with Mod Lights this year, too, so that's continuing to expand as well.
Yeah. When do you think Dylan Rafferty will win a race in every state?
He's won this year, hasn't he?
Oh,
he's won a couple.
Oh, yeah. I think he won the Sugar Bowl, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure he did. You got to forgive me. I can't remember all this stuff, but I imagine if anybody's going to win a Mod Light race in every single state we do business, it would be like Dylan would be the key.
Well, we are working toward the weekend, so he is due for another win.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. But what else? Anything else on races we've had? Specifically on races? I don't think I can think of.
Nothing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Lots of racing already going on, and lots of different racers. That's always a good thing. Rookie winners, old winners, new winners, young winners.
Now that March is here, more tracks will be opening up by the end of the month.
Yeah. Speaking of racers and ages, I think Kimberly brought in a stat to me. Would have been maybe yesterday or last week. She brought in a stat that as of that at that point, I think our oldest registered member that we had already for this year was 82 years old.
Wow.
And the youngest registered racer we had was 14, and it was literally like 2 days before she gave me the stats. So I mean, we've got
68 years.
Yeah,
That's
we've got racers who are just barely old enough to race, and then we got racers that are, you just go, well, holy cow.
Right.
He's racing and he's 82. It's an accomplishment.
I hope to be mobile when I'm 82.
Yeah, no kidding.
I hope to be alive.
Yeah, no kidding.
I could throw in a Joe Biden comment right here, but I won't. Ryan, give me a dirty look.
Politics.
Yeah, politics. Don't mix it. But anyhow, yeah, so, which I think is a cool stat. We just run the gamut when it comes to ages and all kinds of different things, from occupations to where people live, what they do for a living, what divisions they're in. It's really cool to see how people how racers kind of decide where they go and what they do and all that other kind of thing. But it's a whole nother subject. You got something on? Do we have track sizes? Is that what you?
I do have track sizes. What do you think the average size of racetrack? Explain.
Yeah, explain how this come about, because it's kind of interesting.
I don't know why we started it, but when the tracks submit their information every year in their contract, included on that is how big is your racetrack? What is your size? Anywhere from, we've got as small as 1/6 of a mile, have in the past, haven't had a contract yet with that size, up to half mile. But we've got 126 contracts in so far out of roughly 150. Those are tracks that race weekly or crown champions throughout the course of the season. What do you think the average size of a racetrack is that we sanction? Jim, any idea when it comes down, when you put all of them across the country that race weekly?
3/8 would be my guess.
3/8. A little big, but of course, yeah, it's not quite that big, Jim.
Yeah, it would be.
You've heard that before, haven't you?
Oh, wait.
I was waiting. You're right at 1/3 of a mile. So when they come in, I break the tracks down by size, by region, just to see what the averages are across the country and combine them all together. We have right now around 42 miles of racetracks that sanction weekly across the country, which makes sense. 125 tracks so far, 1/3 of a mile is the average. So and that will continue to grow.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, from whether it be some of the tracks I think that are hosting mod light racing, I think is probably some of our smaller racetracks. Yeah. I think that probably how got it down to maybe 1/6.
Yeah.
That's probably more than likely a mod light racetrack that I can't think of the name of, but I have a pretty good idea. In Illinois, maybe?
For mod lights. In Nebraska, there's a new one that's going to be.
There you go.
Yep.
Fairbury,
that's it.
County.
And the most common
Fairbury,
size.
Illinois, and Fairbury, Nebraska mixed up. Is there Fairbury in Illinois?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
The most common size is 3/8. I mean, over 50 of our tracks so far, almost half of them are of that size. So it's pretty common. But.
Yeah, I would guess 3/8 or smaller for sure. I wouldn't have guessed necessarily 3/8 or 1/3, but yeah, 3/8 or smaller. We don't sanction how many half mile racetracks?
Right now we've got 5. 5
out of 126.
Out of 126. What
are they so far?
I don't have the track names in front of me. You could probably figure them out. 1 in the West region, 3 in the North Central, and 1 in the South Central.
So Kokopah would probably be the West region, wouldn't it?
I don't know. And this is based off of the sizes they report to us. So
right. Kokopah's pretty big.
Yeah.
I would consider it to be a half mile. I wouldn't.
A lot of people lie about size. So
well, you did. You thought it was 3/8 and it was really 1/3. Splitting hairs, Jim. Splitting hairs.
Yeah.
I hate when it gets set up for me and I can't even swing at it because we're on a podcast.
Because it's too short, you can't swing at it.
We have those.
You're missing Jerry, aren't you, Jim?
We have those.
Oh boy.
We have those subjects and words that we're not supposed to say. Jim's like, we need a gag order on Jim. But yeah, half mile racetracks. You've got Shawano, which is a big racetrack.
That would be one in the North Central.
Yeah, and you got Arlington.
Arlington would be the second one. I don't know what the other one would be.
Has a couple of really big racetracks. Both are generally speaking well attended too, as well. Right. I mean, I would say if you had to categorize them, I would say half-mile racetracks at times don't have as good a car counts as some of the 3/8 or smaller racetracks do for whatever reason. Some of it might just be location, but some of it is just the type of racing, I think, a little bit.
Right.
But
the cars are well attended, both cars and fans. I mean,
those are.
yeah.
Yeah. We just don't, we just don't sanction that, 5 out of 126 or half mile, just.
Well, we lost one last year. Harlan was a half mile, and
Yeah, they cut it down.
now they're third mile, I believe they're listed at now.
And their car counts went up.
Yeah.
Right. They made a lot of changes over there too. They continue to make a lot of changes.
After they made that move, their car counts went up. Then you got little racetracks, quarter miles or smaller, like we have here in town.
Stewart's small.
Yeah, Stewart, Vinton, Mojave Valley, I think, is a pretty.
Right. Ventura's pretty small too out west, aren't they?
Ventura, if you had to ask me, if I were to answer what's the smallest track we sanctioned, the one that comes to my mind immediately is Ventura.
They're listed as a 5th mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yep. And how many years have we sanctioned Ventura? 30.
Long time.
Very
long.
long.
Yeah.
30. And
they're scheduled to open up, I believe, next week.
Jim Naylor's been there every year that I can recall.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if anybody ever's ran Ventura besides Jim Naylor. I think when they put the wall up, Jim came with it or something.
Came with the wall.
I think Jesus started it, and Jim took over for him halfway through the season.
Well, the neat thing to me, though, is these contracts come in. I say we're up to 126 out of roughly 150 weekly tracks. We've got some series schedules out that we don't have yet. I think we're at 175 tracks out of what's going to be 250 likely by the end of the year. But we already have contracts and events sanctioned in 38 states and Canada already. And we're still missing out on, like I say, a couple dozen weekly tracks and a number of series schedules. So numbers will be at or ahead of where they've been in previous years.
Yep.
Yeah,
That map's going to be full in Ryan's office. A lot of pins in the map.
Yeah, it's full.
Your map in your office is definitely something that's I even fascinated by it. As weird as that may be, I walk in and I go, oh, good Lord.
We should get a picture of it.
Yeah, no, we should probably post that. Do we do a Google Maps or anything like that off our website or anything that kind of identifies that? I know Jim does some stuff too. You do some stuff behind the scenes, I think.
Yeah,
we have Google Map.
We do have one. Yes,
a master one that shows everything.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I thought we did.
Yes.
It's always interesting to see. Again, people ask me, "Oh, you ready for racing to start?" And we've talked about this before.
It doesn't end.
It's like, yeah, it already started. Like when? Well, like January 1st.
Right.
Well, I think that, with the streaming, I think that really opens people's eyes to realize, they do start racing other places. If you don't see it, you don't think about it. But the fact that you can watch that stuff, people realize that racing is a year-round sport.
Speaking of streaming, we did stream the Clash at the Coast too, and we had really, really good viewership for that. That to the race fans, whether you're attached to a race car or a casual race fan. I mean, most people that are watching the streaming seem to be, they're coming from pockets of where the racers come from. The nice thing about our streaming service, about IMCA TV, is we get those analytics, and it's not something we talk about a lot necessarily from a public standpoint, but it's something we use definitely on the back end when we're talking to our promoters, when we're trying to promote events, we're trying to see where racers come from, all those kinds of things. And then, with the streaming service and the analytics that we get that no other streaming service provides their racetracks but us. When you look at that stuff, you can see where people are, where they live, where they're watching from, and you look at the Clash on the Coast in Florida, and there's people from California,
Washington,
and you see some Illinois, and you see some specific stuff like Quincy, and why would somebody from Quincy watch it?
Well, the Becerra guy was doing pretty good down there.
Where's Becerra from? We see
the
those
Austin
kinds
Becerra
of things.
show.
Correct. We see those kinds of things, and it helps us, from a analytical standpoint, kind of determine where what's going on. It's very beneficial. It's good for us to know.
Good for the tracks to know.
And it's good for the racetracks to know, the promoters who are putting up all the money on these shows, who are taking all the risk. Obviously the racers take risks too wherever they go up and down the road, so you can't leave them out. But the promoters
It's only
take the
right
most.
that there is some transparency in viewer numbers, and that's what I believe IMCA TV gives that nobody else does.
We do. Nate does a fantastic job with that, as does Chris with Rivet, our platform provider. And I don't know how many races are we going to stream? A lot. We'll stream a lot this year. It'll be interesting at the end of the year how many races we actually had. Like we're at 100 now, but when we get to October or even maybe into November, how many of those races did we have, and then how many were actually streamed as well? So,
and you know the good thing, this will be replayed. Probably, I would assume at night, so Chris might be able to hear the comments we make about him. Because if it was live, we'd be in trouble.
Is he getting his best sleep right now?
He's a sleeper.
Oh, yeah.
Do you take naps in the evening?
If I sit down after I get home from work, see, I record. I shouldn't even tell you this because you're never going to let
These
me
are
live
the
it
things
down.
we like to know. Come on.
Oh boy,
Jeopardy is on.
Can I guess what you record?
Shut
first?
up! Oh, please do, Jim.
Will and Grace.
No. I record Jeopardy. I record and I rewatch I watch the episodes that Ken Jennings hosts, not the episodes that I am Bialik hosts. But I'll go home and I'll watch that after work, and then after Jeopardy, that kind of determines if I'm going to get up and get motivated or if I'm going to sit there and maybe doze off. I try not to.
Things
nap.
get kind of foggy.
I try not to nap.
But you got baseball season coming up, so you got the Cubs you can look forward to watching.
I'll watch a little bit of that. March Madness is here, though, so that's where my focus is.
That means it's time to do sticker packets.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's that time of year.
Some people are nappers. I'm not a big napper, but I'm kind of like you. I go home. If I'm not careful, I have to fall asleep on the couch.
But I won't sleep for very long. I might fall
yeah.
asleep for 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Like the 20-minute power nap.
Yeah.
So
my grandpa used to say, take 10, take 10.
yeah,
That's all you need, take 10.
exactly. Yeah. Speaking of naps, what have you been up to lately, Carson?
Well,
That's a segue.
right?
Yeah. How can we talk to Carson?
Where's the rim shot? Where's the rim shot?
Right.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
So quiet. My
I
left
know,
ear is
that
normally like
that one's-
ringing by now,
Right.
but it's not.
Super, super faint. It's not like this one, which is a little louder. Oh, I can turn that up. You're going to get above
new
my...
Jerry.
Right.
I'll turn it off if I'm not careful.
No, we have
There we go.
a new Mod Light sponsor.
That's just out today, I think.
Yes,
isn't it?
Yeah, we
just
do.
out today. Stealth Racing, Brian Compart.
Yep.
So that'll be good for the Mod Lights. Lots of contingencies for those guys and
It will be.
Super Nationals and throughout the years. So
Yep, he came on board at Super Nationals last year,
yes,
specifically for the Mod Lights, and Brian's been attached to that Mod Light division for quite a few years. So I don't, some people, at least in this area in the Mod Light world, are going to know who he is
right.
and who Stealth Race Car is. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see him step up and fill a void that was vacated by a different sponsor that didn't care. But it's easy come, easy go in some of those situations, and it's always good to have people that are supportive of the divisions, get
Right.
into it. We're in that time of year, obviously, from a sponsorship standpoint, from a decal placement sheet standpoint, things like that, where I know you're working on a lot of that stuff. Yeah, we get it, and we talked about it this morning about the welcome letter that we send to all of the email that we send to all of our racers who, when they buy their license, and one of the, probably the most common comment this time of year is what?
Where's my packet?
Right.
I got my
Where's my
license. Where's my
stickers?
stickers?
Where's my stickers? Where's my decal packet?
Yep.
So March is the month. It's March Madness around the IMCA office, except we're not watching basketball much here anymore. We will actually be doing decal packets. So that stuff will probably go out. I would imagine we'll start doing that stuff here in the next 14 days or so, a week or two.
Yep.
We got to rely on all the decals to get here. Some of them we can pull last year's stuff if we have it, some leftover decals
Right.
and get us going. But we need to send a decal packet. We need every decal that needs to be in the packet. Otherwise, we're sending multiple packets, and we don't want to do that. So we will get decal packets put together. So those that are listening and want their decal packet, you should have it, I would say, somewhere towards the end of this month.
Right.
Which for most racetracks is it's decent timing.
Yeah.
And for those that use a wrap guy, all of those can be found on the website.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they're all the same.
Yep. They're all the
for
same.
the most part. So
We've talking about
Who's your favorite rap guy, Carson?
Who's your
Eminem.
favorite rapper?
Eminem.
Eminem, come on.
I always took you as a Tupac guy.
Nice. Biggie. Little Notorious B.I.G. East Coast, West Coast kind of thing. Who shot who first?
Yeah, I remember sitting at the intersection where who got shot, remember? It was
Yeah.
Virginia that pointed it out to us.
Yeah, it's on Google. Like Tupac got shot right there. It's like, no
That's
way.
right.
Like, yeah.
Right by the Italian restaurant.
Like, yeah, exactly. I think we were going out for dinner or something. And I'm like, good Lord.
The Grotto? Was it by the Grotto?
No, it was over. What's that place we go to in Vegas when we used to go to Vegas?
With the accordion player.
Batista's hole in the wall.
Yes.
Was that what it is? Was it Batista's
Yes,
hole in the wall?
yes,
Like the
it's
wrestler
right by
Batista?
there.
He's on the Marvel movies now too, but yeah, Batista's hole in the wall. Have you ever went there with us, Ryan?
I think that was pre-me. I don't think that was.
We've went there since then. Back when we had two cars and we were going different directions, people, we would all eat different places.
A lot of
But
times.
I was probably crying at the grotto.
you guys
while
would
you were
stop.
going.
Yeah, you'd stop at the Nugget, like they're the only place in town that has an Italian restaurant. We would go down to the one that was actually good.
Yeah. After we showered.
Yeah, Batista's hole in the wall is pretty good. Had the accordion player, the guy would come by, the accordion player.
Where was this at?
It's like behind what I don't know which hotel it's behind or which casino it's behind. It's
Almost
on the south
between
side
the
of the
strip and downtown.
This is the Italian restaurant?
Yeah.
I was there
Yeah.
once with you. I was there once.
Yeah, I mean, you walk in there and it's like walking into the mob's, office. You've got the red leather booths.
Right,
and,
okay, yep.
So if somebody gets shot,
The
they just-
accordion player
they
asks where
stay
you're
in the
from.
furniture.
And they'll play the college theme song, and you gotta tip them at the.
great Mexican food, great Italian food. But anyhow,
How did we get to that?
I don't know how we got.
I really
to that.
don't know.
Now I know why you're. Now I know why
This
you're
is the
sleeping,
problem with
Carson.
this
Right?
damn podcast is it just goes different directions.
Speaking of
Even
naps,
Jerry
I don't
not
know.
here. We were talking about sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
rap
like decal
guys.
packets and required ones. I think we've got to change. We're probably going to be making, or at least an update to one of our mod regional sponsors that will get updated probably, I would imagine, the next day or two.
Yep. Within the next 48 hours,
We'll get-
expect to see something out on
Yeah,
that.
we'll get that
Come on,
finalized.
Carson,
so for
spill the
everybody
beans.
that's-
Spill
for-
the beans.
for
No,
everybody's
no,
doing
I'm not.
raps.
I'm not you, Jim.
So everybody's
Come
doing
on,
raps.
let's hear it.
They're up to date and current on everything, but not much. There hasn't been much change between last year and this year, which is
Right.
good, I think. Sometimes it's easy to not change stuff.
Right. And of course, Friesen Performance back on for the
Yep.
modifieds and sport mods. So
From the onset of the crate motors involvement, and particularly in mod racing, Friesen and Al have been a pretty big integral part of that. They've been very involved from obviously the connection we have to Friesens in general, from Jason Friesen and his racing IMCA many years ago, and then to Delmer running the racetrack in central Nebraska, to their involvement with obviously the crate engine program, and now being the title sponsor of the IMCA modified division for a couple years, 3 years. Definitely can't thank Al, and even Chad at Friesen, because Chad is he's an important part of our program as well. And from an inspection standpoint, Chad is, he's a resource that we use, which is very helpful. I don't think Dave caught any.
Reason.
Yeah, and Delmer. Yeah, I mentioned Delmer.
Opening McCool Junction back up this year.
McCool opening back up. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're in central
Delmer's
Nebraska.
health is on the right track. I mean, he's got to be one of the toughest guys I know. I mean, he got hit by a bull last year. That's what started his whole health issues.
You know how you avoid that?
Yeah, stay away from bulls.
Yeah. Don't get in the cage or arena or whatever they call them. That's a whole nother subject. People who want to ride them things are crazy.
right.
But people do it. It's fun to watch. It's kind of like racing at times, Fun to watch, but I wouldn't want to be the person that experienced what they experienced.
Wouldn't wanna be
Rodeo.
Cam.
I think bull riding is a little like that. But anyhow, back so crate engines. We were on crates for a second, and I was going to say that it's a good thing that I don't think Dave has caught any cheated crates over the course of the last 2 or 4 weeks of racing. We did in January. And coincidentally enough, it's interesting because, it's a $10,000 fine. People, I don't know how much more we could discourage people competing with crate engines that are not legitimate in IMCA racing, at least. But, people still test that. And, that engine, we had an engine come back from Kokopah that's sitting out back here that I don't know what I'm going to do with. Make a boat anchor with it or whatever, but it's just not a good idea. Dave did have some issues. Again, he's down and Dave was at Kokopah for a little while, and Dave is down in Texas now on the Sniper Lone Star Tour for stock cars, and he had some issues pop up down there that I really wanted to talk about. And I know you guys aren't necessarily rules guys, or I can add a lot to it.
I enjoy it,
but it's fascinating. This is a really interesting subject, I think, because it kind of parlays into the decision-making process at IMCA and how we arrive at some of these situations. And so, Nate should have a couple of pictures. Can you put up the first photo, Nate, if you would? Okay, so that's a photo of a stock car. That happens to be the driver's side, which I would call the left side hub assembly, and that's the right side hub assembly on the same car. This car coincidentally got disqualified for this. People ask, and what I see it a lot on Facebook, especially why was there a DQ? We don't necessarily put that in the stuff that they're going to see like on MRP or something like that, or even on Facebook. Sometimes I'll answer questions if it pops up or somebody tags me or tags IMCA in it. But this particular hub is the right front on the same race car. And if you look real close, you'll see why this car got disqualified. It's not obvious, but it is if you look at a lot of cars. This car, coincidentally, I believe I looked at in Abilene in Pass Tech for me. Now, whether or not this was on there, I'm not sure. But if you look close at the second photo right there, there's a small spacer between the hub and the rotor itself. And you go back to photo 1 if you could, Nate.
We need to get you a John Madden telestrator.
Yeah, I need one of those pins like Tony Romo has, and he starts talking about the plays. This doesn't have the spacer, and so the left front didn't, the right front did. And if you put them both up, I think Nate put a picture of them side by side. You can see they're opposites, but you can see the difference. You see how the hub on what is the right side picture, he's got a spacer.
How close to the rotor that is.
It's got a spacer. Now, this is not something that just you can accidentally do. This is something that is very, in our opinion at IMCA, it's why it carries a disqualification with no points as if you weren't even there. This is not something that you can do accidentally with a wrong rotor hey, how'd this happen? You have to have a caliper bracket that's going to accommodate what's going on here. It pushes the rotor out. For years, we have in the stock car division a rule that says you can only have 2 inches of wheel offset or spacer or a combination thereof. So if you have a 1-inch wheel spacer, you got to be careful how you're using a wheel spacer when you have an offset wheel. Because if you have a 2-inch offset wheel on there and you throw a 1-inch wheel spacer on there behind the wheel, you're going to get disqualified.
Right.
It keeps the tires and the wheels underneath the car. It's been that way for as long as I've been at IMCA, 30 years. It's a rule that I think now more than ever is probably pretty important with some of the things people are trying to do with the right front on some of these race cars. There's a good example. That's a way to circumvent that, or an attempt to circumvent that, by spacing the rotor and the hub, spacing the rotor out itself. So it's kind of like a wheel spacer behind the rotor. But when you look at how these hubs are designed, and we can talk about that a little bit when you look at the hub that we have that most of our stock car guys are using now. I've got one here. When you look at that is made with a rotor that's matches it, generally speaking. And when you start spacing, stuff out, you get into problems with clearances, and you get into problems with where the bearing sets, the hub of when you get into the actual, whatever you call this, the hub, snout, some people call them different things. And you get into the issues of how much threads are going to be out here to hold the whole hub onto the race car. So when you start, if you're not careful, pulling this stuff all out really starts to jeopardize, in my opinion, the safety of the situation. It's just not a good idea. It's clever. It's very well engineered. That appeared to be something that somebody knew what they were doing, but it's just not going to fly. And it doesn't fly for some of the reasons I just touched on, you know. You don't want to be putting mixed-matched things together and risking the potential of a hub busting or risking the potential of, a rotor assembly coming off and at speed when you're racing. People ask all the time, we probably get a lot of criticism about this subject in particular, and that is, why do I have to use that spindle? It's because it says IMCA on it. It's because it's, IMCA wants you to buy it so we make money. And when the reality is this stuff is essentially OEM replacement components that are reverse engineered by Speedway to address all of these issues, and it's safe, and it's practical, and it matches the OEM components, generally speaking, that we see out there. But it has a purpose. So when people start to circumvent that stuff, things can get, in my opinion, they can get not only become competitive advantages, but they can become dangerous, in ways. And when you look at issues like wheel stickers, issues like spindles that are labeled so we can identify them, they're all designed that way, and they're all being held to standards that are extremely important, so we aren't throwing hubs, wheels, rotor assemblies, all kinds of weird things into pit areas, into grandstand areas, or anything like that when you got guys racing on half-mile racetracks, stuff like that. When the speeds get to be 100-plus mile an hour, it can get extremely dangerous for the competitor and for everybody that's there to watch it. So, long explanation, but there's a DQ down in the Sniper Tour, and that's why that DQ occurred. We also had something else. I think I gave you another. I kind of got a pointer now. It's a hobby stock carb gauge, but it works good. I also sent you a decal. Oh yeah, I mentioned wheels. Well, this is also a really bad idea. This, too, is something that Dave came across on the Sniper Tour, not on a stock car, but on a Southern Sport Mod. Don't make your wheel decals, guys. It's just a really bad idea. And those decals, those we didn't issue. So they're on wheels that we don't know what they are. But that's just a bad direction to go as well. That
came from the box of bad ideas.
That came from the box of bad ideas. All this stuff pretty much falls in the box of bad ideas.
I hate writing those letters. I really do.
Ryan gets
Brett,
to
what
write
does that
all those.
cost a guy?
The wheel sticker deal is $1,000 and a 30-day suspension. We're just not going to play around with people.
You lose your points
stickers,
too,
and you lose your points for the year. So
which
for a
is
guy
more important
that's
than that to some people, points.
correct, for a guy that really is going to race any more IMCA for the remainder of the year, at that point, losing your point average at the first race of the year is a really bad thing to have happen, because technically you can no longer, if unless it's a draw redraw show,
Right.
you can no longer earn a point average at which you can never start any better than
10th or 12th or wherever the
11th,
invert is.
yeah, wherever the invert is, anywhere from 11th to 13th
Yes,
or 10th to 12th.
So if you lose your points for the season, that doesn't mean you lose all your points up to that point and you can start over. You're done earning points for the entire
You
calendar
get zero
year.
the whole year, so you can't earn an average. So
you're a new car every night.
In any invert setting, you're starting dead last in everything. You start dead
We
last
ran
in the
into
heat
that
race.
with that
You win your heat
with
race.
the crate motor.
You still go back to the back of the invert. So it is a long-term, months-long penalty that lasts for a season. So, and not all of our penalties carry that. Cheated crate carries that. Counterfeiting spindles or counterfeiting wheel decals or something like that is going to carry that as well. Those are just penalties that just not a wise decision. But so be it. We've came across a couple of this stuff already this year. So, but. Back on the spindle situation, obviously we moved from an OEM replacement, from an OEM spindle, the Pinto spindles that used to say Fomoco on the back of them, Ford Motor Company. They're easy for us to identify. We moved those into a replacement Pinto spindle that we identified by putting IMCA on the steering arm. People kind of get all bent out of shape by seeing IMCA on it, so we just had told Speedway, when we got into what we consider to be like maybe the second phase of these spindle designs, when we moved into the 3-piece spindle, that the same hub is now used, or spindle is now used on a hobby stock and a stock car and on a modified or a northern or southern sport mod. You can just change the steering arms on them. It makes the component much more universal for other divisions. So if a guy hits a tractor tire on the infield, we talked a little bit about that with Rob in Abilene with his hay bale experience, but in the last episode. But when you hit a tractor tire and it bends a steering arm, you can just replace the steering arm. Or if you happen to bust a hub or snout or hit the wall really hard and bend something serious up on the right front, you can't. Mod guys don't just have to rely on a mod guy maybe having that component as a spare in their trailer. Maybe a sport mod guy's got one, or maybe even a hobby stock or a stock car guy's got one that'll work, and then they swap the steering arms out on it. So there's a lot of thought going into these spindles. It wasn't and money grab was really wasn't the factor in how we determined what we wanted to do. We wanted to try to give a OEM component like a spindle that was super popular in the 90s, and as it got depleted and ran out, a replacement for that, but one that actually had multiple usages, and it becomes a numbers thing. They can make more of those more affordably. It keeps the cost of them down a little bit, on and on and on. So don't play with the spindles. Don't put the wrong steering arm on them. We'll see mod guys that'll have a metric steering arm on it potentially. If you've got, actually it's the other way around. We see stock car guys try to put the Pinto steering arm on it, the short steering arm, I think. Short or long. There's 2 steering arms there. They're different lengths. Don't mix match those. If you're running essentially a metric car, you have to have the metric version of that and the metric steering arm length on that. You can't swap those or have one different from side to side in those divisions where we mandate that you have to have them that essentially match the frame. So we could talk spindles a lot, but we're probably talking too much. But anyhow, that's my tech for this episode of No Jerry podcast.
You have a carburetor and a carb gauge there, though. Were you going to talk about those?
I just like this from a pointing standpoint, but yeah, a little bit. I mean, this is a carb gauge that we have custom made for IMCA. These are Rochester carb gauges, and I do have a Rochester carb gauge or a Rochester carburetor, an OEM one here that is very popular. Obviously, our hobby stocks have to use this, but it's always a good idea as we transition into OEM replacement type components, and I think that's probably going to happen in this particular component in this Rochester carburetor. I think you're going to start seeing an OEM replacement version of that. It's already out there, but we're likely going to approve one. Right now, I don't think we have one that's approved that's not a specific OEM Rochester carburetor, but our gauges have to work, and that's a part of the approval process. People ask, what's approved, what's not approved, and in this particular case, we'll gauge it. If we get an OEM replacement carb that says, hey, can we sell these IMCA racers, and we'll gauge it, approve it, verify that with the manufacturer of the component who sent it to us for approval, and then the racers can buy them and feel comfortable that they're not buying something that they're wasting their money on. That's going to get them disqualified, where they're not only wasting their money on it, or they're losing money in tech because it fails something. So look for us we're working on a replacement Rochester carburetor, an OEM replacement one that's out there, and look for us to make an announcement on that, I would imagine, sometime in the next month or two. So
maybe real quick, Brett, just a couple seconds, talk about the composite body panels and the approval process that they have to go through.
Yeah, we did add late models have been using them for a year or so. We did add allowing a composite body panel and performance bodies, MD3, 5-star, however you want to describe it, has submitted stuff to us that is approved. Their components. And I imagine there'll probably likely be more, but we wanted to at the very least try to establish some ratings or some reasoning as to why we approve a composite body panel. So we're working on that, and it's something that is becoming a popular question, at least for us at this point, because of the way we added it in the rules for this year, and particularly in late model races and in racing and modifieds. Those two divisions right now are the only two divisions for 2023 that we're planning on approving a composite body. And if it spreads into other classes and it makes sense for it to spread in any other classes, obviously we'll consider that down the road, but we don't consider that now. So if you're racing a sport mod, for example, don't put a composite body on your sport mod. They're not permitted. Stick with the aluminum for now. And as the market sorts itself out, you know, we'll if it's cost effective, we'll let that stuff trickle into other divisions. But we kind of like use, I guess the best way to describe it when it was something on an issue like that, we try to keep the components that are permitted restricted to certain divisions, at least initially, instead of just doing it in everything.
Walk before you run.
Kinda. Yeah. Have I talked enough about race car parts? Probably.
Speaking of running, what about some of the
Nate, are you awake still?
running through some upcoming specials that are planned at IMCA racetracks?
What's the deal with the picture behind you, Jim?
Who's that?
Jerry's got to be here regardless, even if he's not
He's got to be here. So.
Am I the only person that thinks that Jerry kind of at times looks like Paul Berger from B&B?
Oh, everybody.
Absolutely.
Oh, everybody does.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
It's weird because you got
He's
Jason
got a Drew
Van
Carey Dilbert thing going on there. Too.
Yeah. You got Jason Van Sickle, Jerry's like real brother genetically, and he doesn't really look a lot like Jerry. But then you have
Mailman.
Yeah, then you have Paul Berger, who I don't think is related to Jerry, that almost looks like he could be his brother. Do you guys do this? I do this. My wife and I play this. I don't know if it's a game or not, but like whenever you're out, wherever you're at, you're like, oh man, that person looks like
so and so.
So. Like we went on vacation this year, right? And we went on a cruise with our kids and my parents, and I was like, that guy on the stage, he kind of looks like Tom Berry and Jonathan Logue. If they had like a love child, that would be that guy. So seriously, and I think I'm going to start taking pictures of people with me so I can say, in the podcast, like, look who I'm with. I'm with Tom Berry and Jonathan Logue's
love
child.
Well, they do that at sporting events on the Jumbotrons. They pull people out
of
the crowd to say who they look like.
They do. Probably the most popular one that I know that was in the last year or so was Henry Witt. Did you see him on SportsCenter?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he was on SportsCenter. Henry Witt, for people who know who Henry Witt is, IMCA modified national champion from Waco. I know him. He won a lot of IMCA races in the modified division for many years.
Why was he on SportsCenter?
He looks like Bobby Huggins. You know who Bobby Huggins is?
Yeah, he's the West Virginia basketball coach.
West Virginia.
He looks almost just like him. And Henry is always well dressed, but he wears a lot of what I would consider to be like athletic gear.
He doesn't wear tracksuits like Bob Huggins.
He does. He does. He wears tracksuits to kind of look. So if he's just walking through the airport, and he's told me, because when I'm in Waco, I'll usually stop and say hi to Henry, and he was on SportsCenter like within the last 12 months. As a Bobby Huggins lookalike.
West Virginia was playing Baylor, and Henry was at the game.
He was at the game.
Oh. Wow.
Henry was at the game, and so it was kind of funny. I think West Virginia and Baylor just played again this year, like a week or two ago, if I remember correctly. I don't know who won. I don't watch a lot of college
February
basketball.
of 2022. Yeah, there's a story online. Check it out.
Yeah. So you have those Henry Witt, Bobby Huggins moments. We all have them, I think. I'm like for years. Mike Nichols that gave me shit. He thinks I look like Phillip Rivers, and I'm like, I don't really think I look like Phillip Rivers.
Certain settings, certain environments, maybe if you dress a certain way.
Every once in a while, I'll get this Phillip Rivers like emoji looking picture, whatever you call meme, I guess, what they are. I'll get one of those from Mike Nichols. He'll send that to me. And
who do we think Carson looks like?
I don't know.
Oh boy.
Opie?
Yeah, there's Henry. It's with his daughter.
Yeah, he does look like it.
Wow.
Who would be Carson's body double?
We should have a segment
Carson's
for this. We really should.
I think it's I got to go with Opie from the old Andy Griffith show.
Really? Ron Howard?
Early Ron Howard, not a Richie Cunningham Ron Howard.
Well, he was too cool.
Ron Howard. He was too
Wow.
cool.
I'm going to go pull
These
all
are
your,
not your.
I'm
These
gonna
are
go-
not your happy days, Carson.
I'm going to go pull all your pins out of your map.
So we should have
Really?
Yes.
You're going right where it hurts. Huh?
we should have racers submit. We should
that'd
have
be cool.
racers submit pictures of
What they look like.
of who they think people look like, other people. Yeah, I mean it's hard to do it for yourself. I think. 'Cause
Or
you'll see
who have people told you look like? You could do that.
Right. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, people think I look like. I've had Phillip Rivers and I've had Skeet Ulrich, if you know who that is.
Oh
Those
my
are the
God!
two.
No, he's too good looking to be you.
Maybe.
Sorry,
Yeah, no,
Brad.
I think it's got to be.
I've had
early
that
Ron
said to
Howard,
me. I
Opie
didn't
Ron
do that
Howard.
myself.
You do not look like Skeet. Really?
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
People tell me I look
'Cause
like
that's why you
Nicolas
don't want-
Cage, and I hate.
Whenever
that.
people say I look like this, there's always somebody that goes, bullshit.
Right.
No, you don't.
I think the Jerry
There
Van
is
Sickle
no
body
way.
double would.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
There's no way that. No.
No. I had a high school kid I graduated that I think looked more like him than I do. I think he looks like Jay Allpress. If you know who I'm
Really?
talking about.
I know Jay.
Yeah, I think so. But anyhow, these games are fun. I like doing this. Like it's like when you're in an airport,
Yep.
people walk by,
Kind of like the Who Would You Do game.
Which. Yes. Yes.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I have a sound for that.
I don't want to know what your sound effect is for that.
Oh my gosh.
Who would you do?
Do. Would you?
Would you?
Yes.
Would you?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do women have conversations like that? Honestly.
Why are you looking at me?
I mean, do they? This is getting
I
off
would
the rails
assume
and-
they
this is
do.
getting off the rails in a hurry. But I mean, guys have guy conversations, and we say that kind of shit. I mean, it's just like, would you?
Oh, boy.
Do women go, would you? Anyhow, probably not.
Let's talk about upcoming
We're
races.
such different creatures. Upcoming races, yeah. How long have we been talking?
Hour? We had an hour? I think we're at an hour.
Oh God,
Seems like 3.
I've probably been talking for most of it.
No, Jerry, you haven't.
I gotta.
2 hours later.
That's one of my favorite sounds.
2
I like Ryan's
hours
comment
later.
about that sound.
Yeah.
What?
Your pit meetings.
Oh, that was Brett's comment. He brought that up
Back
himself.
when I did drivers meetings.
Yeah, we got some big shows coming up right
We
around
do.
the corner.
Things are picking up. Frostbusters coming up. Spring Nationals coming up.
Stampede at Southern. There you go, right there as I
Stampede
speak.
coming up. It's going to start getting hot and heavy once the 48 feet of snow melt in Reno.
Speaking of snow, we're supposed to get snow here in Nebraska, and that's
Keep it
probably
over
a
there.
good reason why the Beatrice Spring Nationals got pushed back a week.
It did. Yep.
But I can remember going to Spring Nationals where they actually plowed the snow so you could get to the track.
I went one year when the water was freezing in the sheep's foot holes on the track.
I think that was an Abilene problem a couple weeks ago, too.
No, it wasn't. It was not that cold down there, and it never really gets that cold in Abilene, but it did get that cold in Beatrice. It snowed when I was in the infield in Beatrice one year.
I've been there when it snowed before. It's
Yeah.
not a fun experience.
And I don't think, I mean, in defense of events that are scheduled early, I mean, it's so tough. How do racetracks decide when to schedule their events? Some are they too early? We always have these conversations. Is March in Iowa a little too soon to be racing?
If you don't schedule it, the weather would be 70, sunny, and people would complain that you're not racing yet.
Exactly. You go back to you have some spring nationals events at Beatrice that have just been beautiful, and people come out of
70s, 80 degrees.
Yeah, people come out of the woodworks, and it's like this weekend. They've got the St. Patrick's Day parade scheduled in Cedar Rapids for Saturday, and the high's supposed to be 35, and it's supposed to snow 4 inches.
Right.
And it's like, is that really parade weather? Probably not so much, and racing is the same,
St. Patrick's Day is a drinking holiday. They'll be there
But
anyway.
even still, I mean, I get it. People are. I
They're
didn't say
gonna be
people aren't
there.
going to drink.
Yeah, right. They'll be there.
I mean, we're still going to hammer some green beer, eat cabbage. Do you do that on Patrick's Day? Do you follow the
Corned beef and cabbage.
corned beef and
I do
cabbage? You
not.
don't do that?
I don't. I know people do it, but no.
I do. I like that better than
Glad
grain
it's
beer.
on a weekend, then you're not going to be around you.
But anyhow, yeah. So racing in March anywhere, you know, in the upper Midwest or in the Midwest, even as far down as southern Oklahoma and central Oklahoma, you know, that you get into kind of questionable temperatures, you know. So racetracks schedule them, you know, and if they don't work out, they don't work out.
I know Minot's got a show scheduled for next week.
Minot?
They have a snowcross race up there.
Yeah.
Husitz ran last week. It was a snowcross.
I saw they were making snow at Husitz for that snowcross race. You ever been to one of those?
I have not.
I've went to one of those. They're kind of cool.
Who'd you go with?
My wife.
Oh, okay.
It sounds like you're expecting something else, Jim.
He was.
Yep.
So the snowcross is kind of like supercross, except on
Him and his
snow,
brother
except not as
Him and his
exciting.
brother went.
I mean, I jumping snowmobiles didn't do much for me. I mean, people think it's cool. I don't. You know,
I've never been into that.
they say things that should jump, and a snowmobile, in my opinion, isn't really one of them. You know, I don't think it's as cool as watching a motorcycle jump 200 feet.
Watching Evil Knievel jump Caesar's Palace.
Yeah, with sharks in the water. Somebody needs
But
to do
we,
that
you know,
again.
we got Southern Oklahoma coming up.
We do.
Down for the drivers down in South Texas that same March 18th. Just breaking news, just added. I-37 is going to have a fast shafts qualifier, $1,000 to win show on March 18th down at I-37 Speedway. So if you're down in that neck of the woods down in South Texas, that would be the place to hit.
And Southern Raceway, I believe this weekend, they added a fast shaft race, 1,000 to win.
Yep. We got, what is it? The Race Saver race down at Devil's Bowl. What is that? 3,000 to win, I believe?
think so. Yeah, I think so.
And I know we got, you know, they got cars already down there from Ohio, Indiana, Nebraska that were racing Monday and Tuesday. We were supposed to race Tuesday, but did get a chance to race Monday. But they're going to have to go down there with, try to beat Kevin Ramey down at Devil's Bowl. Not an easy chore. What else we got coming up?
Yeah, Stewart's got a show. Their Frost is Stewart's show technically their Frostbuster. We really don't have the connected Frostbuster tour this year.
I
for
think
those
it's more just a
Iowa guys that are asking, when's the Frostbuster start? Well, I mean,
tracks are racing.
Stewart moved their race ahead a couple of weeks because Mike does a lot of the track prep out in Bristol still. He's one of the things
For
that
the NASCAR
survived.
race.
Yeah, he's one of the things that survived the racetrack, the dirt track at Bristol. Mike is one of them that's still there, and I think
Who's
she'll
gone?
welcome there. And so he moved his. People are asking, why aren't they all connected? Well, that's why Mike moved his ahead to fit his personal schedule and his other stuff he's got going on at Bristol. And then, Boone and Marshalltown always kind of usually it's like the first.
They start the same time pretty much every year.
It's always usually back-to-back Friday, Saturday, which it still is this year. Right. But their plans were that, 8th or 9th or 7th or 8th of April. And Easter is that Sunday. And Corey and Vinton has said he didn't want to race on Easter. So he's not going to have – so we don't have the 4 races like we've had in previous years where it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's only going to go, Mike's got his stuff in Stewart. Boone's got theirs on Friday and Saturday. I think it's like the 7th and 8th of April.
That weekend, yeah.
Yeah, and then you come back the next week, the 16th, and Vinton opens up with what is this, I think, the 16th.
The Beatrice Spring Nationals push back a week.
I think so.
Hopefully, though,
I think
that will help with the weather. And
yep.
Like I said, Race Savers down at Devil's Bowl this coming up weekend, depending on when this airs.
They just finished up some of the stock car racing for the Lone Star Tour Devil's Bowl. Another big half-mile racetrack, right?
Right.
Well, that might be the only
That would
half-mile
be it.
That might be
racetrack
the
in
one.
Texas.
Yep, the 1/2 mile.
The only one that's not contaminated in Texas is probably Devil's Bowl. I think the other
Once
half-mile
again,
racetrack.
they got their
Texas
boosters
is
down there at Devil's
contaminated.
Bowl.
The
and
dirt's
got their
contaminated or something.
immunization and
Isn't it, Jim?
wear a mask, and they're good.
Hazmat suits, and you can go with the other one.
Yeah, hazmat suits and
But they're racing tonight in Waco.
yeah.
The Sniper
And
Tour is
tomorrow
going to
and
wrap
Friday.
up the next 2 nights in Waco.
Yeah. And then Friday they open their regular.
Are you going to
I don't
post
think
this
they open the
podcast
regular.
today, Nate? So we'll get it posted today. Yeah, the Waco races tonight, Heart of Texas, and their season opener is Friday. So they've got 3 nights of racing.
3 nights in a row.
Waco.
And once
Wednesday,
again,
Thursday,
I
Friday.
want to thank the Stock Car Tour and, for pulling Jerry down there, so we didn't have to do the podcast with him. So we do owe John Kershane a big thank you.
Yes, saved us some
But-
money.
Yeah, I forgot Jerry's pay scale. Well, we got Carson in at a much better rate.
We did.
Yeah.
Duties
The
as
quiet
assigned.
Carson, quiet.
Yep.
Carson, you've been very quiet. Come on, open up. What's on your mind?
Tell us
Well,
something
You're ready to
interesting.
go home, aren't you?
Something interesting. I was the only one in the hotel last night in town.
And you didn't sleep, you said. You couldn't
No,
sleep.
I
It was
couldn't
too
sleep.
quiet?
Yeah.
Vinton, what do you expect?
So, but it still was surf and turf special, wasn't
No,
it?
no,
Steak
that's
and
Monday
lobster?
nights. That's
Ooh,
Monday
that's
nights.
right.
They serve food there?
Taco.
Oh, never mind.
Surf and turf. At the
Well, it's better. It's
at
better
the
than Jim's
cobblestone.
Jersey Mike's experiences.
Yes, it
I can
is.
go to Jersey Mike's anywhere but St. Cloud. Carson's got that one under wraps.
Well, we probably rambled enough. What are we, an hour over?
An hour over?
Yeah.
Carson, take us
Hour
out of
10.
here like Jerry.
2 hours later.
2 hours later. I don't need a sound machine.
Hey, Carson had a birthday recently.
You did?
You did?
Yep.
Are you old enough to drink now?
Yeah. Few years.
He celebrated down in Daytona.
Are you-
We got the pictures to prove it.
What are you?
Yeah.
How old are you now? 29?
Hanging out by the
29.
pool.
29.
Yes. 29. Didn't do anything. It was nice.
30 to me was awful. Worse than 40.
30?
Yeah.
I agree.
For some reason,
30
30
was
for
worse
me,
than
I just
40.
didn't like 30. 40, I don't remember much. And 50, yeah, whatever. But anyhow, well, congratulations on your belated birthday.
Thank you. Well, you had one just a few days before me.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, 50.
51?
I turned.
Oh, you were going to say 3, weren't you?
No, I was going to say 51. My wife thought 56.
Him?
Yeah.
I turned 49. See, when I got to 50, I decided I was going to go the other direction. So now
I'll
I'm
be
technically 49.
I'll be legitimately
Not
49
51.
next month. Wow.
Crazy.
Wow, you're old, Ryan.
We're all getting
Yeah,
old.
getting old.
All right. Well, when are we going to do this again?
I don't know. I'm going to wait for Jerry to come back. Now, when Jerry comes back, then I'll have to be gone because we can't be here at the same time.
Well, it's
Right.
fun when you're both
Oil
here.
and water.
It's good having
know, that
Carson
is-
here.
What did you say,
That
Jim?
makes me wonder, is the whole Jerry Ryan connection why they can't be in the same room at the same
Are
time?
we the same person?
That's what I'm
That
thinking.
would be quite the split personality.
Nobody's ever said to you, "Hey, is that your brother?"
Yeah, you have. You've referred to Jerry as my brother.
Oh wait, yeah, but I was telling a joke.
Oh,
I wasn't serious. Oh well. All right. Well, yeah. We'll wrap it up. Thank you everybody for listening. Episode 3.
Carson get on his way back to St. Cloud.
Carson's
Yes.
gonna take
God's
the snow
country.
back with him, and we'll get together. I imagine in
a week or two.
another week or two and talk again for
Maybe Carson could put something on his new oven he got,
80 minutes.
Come on.
easy
now.
bake oven.
Come on now.
I used to melt crayons in mine. Anyhow,
You had an easy bake oven.
yeah, when you're a kid, I had sisters for crying out loud.
Carson just got one.
Oh, hello.
Oh,
Oh,
I wonder who that is.
are you done yet?
Yeah,
We're done.
Call her quits.
right.
See you next week.
Yeah. Until next time.
Next week sounds good.
Yep.